Welcome to another edition of Kickoff on the Couch. It is the day before the preseason game that attracts more crowd than most PSL games. But more importantly, tomorrow is the announcement of the new Bafana coach. With me is Zola Doda, Kickoff magazine editor Richard Maguire and Mark Murphy. Guys, let's get right to it. Sols, who's your pick for the Bafana job?
Carlos Queiroz.
Let's elaborate.
Look, Safa wants Carlos Queiroz, so it's just a question of whether he wants the job or not. So it's not as if like they're looking for, they're evaluating other coaches as well. So the first choice for them is Carlos Queiroz, which I don't think is a bad choice at all, because he's worked here before. He knows the profile of South African football, and before he left, he left the documents at Safa offices, telling them what to do to go forward and taking the team to the 2010 World Cup. Unfortunately, no one followed that document, and nothing was done about it. So I think going forward, he's my choice.
So you're wrong about no one followed up that document. You know, the USA used it. No, this is the truth.
Okay.
They actually used Carlos's blueprint.
Okay.
And we might find their football boring and blah blah, but it's a nation where football's maybe 5th, 6th, 7th on their list of important sports. They play at the World Cup
after
more than we do. So, you know, I've been reading some of the comments on our stories about the national coach. A lot of people say, Keshi. One guy said, what's he done that a South African hasn't done? I'm not the biggest fan of Keshi, but I did notice him winning an AFCON and qualifying for a World Cup recently. And it's true, Queiroz qualified us for a World Cup. He was very badly treated by Safa at the time. He's probably viewed in this country as a bit of a failure, which is totally unfair. We've never done anything better since. We've had a couple of AFCONs where we were abysmal, then we hosted one and we weren't much better.
That was the last time we qualified for a World Cup.
Right, exactly. I would agree with Zola that of the names that have been going around, Queiroz is the one I'd go for. I was talking to someone who's pretty close to him. It's very hard to get hold of Carlos. But this friend of his says, Carlos was born in Maputo. He sees this as part of the world where he wants to retire. He owns a ranch in Botswana. That's where he goes to chill in the off season. So his heart is telling him the Safa job. According to his friend, he's a bit worried. Okay, he's looked at what players we have. He's maybe not in touch with every local player. But what he said to the friend is, I'm a bit worried. There seems to be less quality than when I last did the job. I think he's right. You know, he said there's Serrero, there's Pino. Actually, let's count Pino. There isn't a hell of a lot to work with, in his opinion. So I think that would be his one worry. His other worry, though, is Iran, according to this friend, offered him 2.5 times more than what Safa did. And I think Queiroz understands issues of the international exchange rate, just how much financial clout we have. We're not going to match that, but I think he would like to see some movement closer to that. Everything else is kind of adding up, despite his worries about who the players are. I think he's the best for it. I keep waiting to hear that Kroll's in the mix. He doesn't seem to be. I think he'd be someone to consider, but Queiroz is also mine.
Max, hold on, Zols, Brasheik's also in the mix quite heavily. What's your thoughts on that?
In my opinion, Brasheik is a very good coach, okay? But we need someone to work with the under-20s as well as under-23s. We can't take all our best coaches to the Bafana Bafana. Who's going to work with under-20? Because the truth is, the guys who are going to play for Bafana Bafana must start with under-20s and get that international experience and go to under-23s. And in my opinion, that's where we need Sheikh's experience.
I actually think
he's done that a lot with in '95 when he took us to the African Youth Championship in '97
took us to the Olympics as well.
Exactly.
Malaysia, North Africa, Malaysia, Australia.
I just come in where, partly on what you're talking about now, having the right step into the senior national team. I mean, I'm a big fan of Baxter. So when Baxter was national coach, I thought he was doing a good job, but I believed in his philosophy. So his philosophy was to literally go back all the way down to the under-13s and start a proper system, which we all know. I mean, it's like a broken record here, but
it's the way
Baxter has that thought process. That's how he sees it playing out. And I guess if we ever want to do well, we've got to listen to someone at some stage and actually start investing in the lower leagues. And again, it plays to that point that you have the right type of people setting these boys up all the way through till they
in the right system.
So I mean, I'm a fan of Baxter, and I don't know. I mean, obviously the Chiefs fans are going to be a bit upset to hear this, but I think somehow Baxter has to get pushed
Well,
back
But
into
they
we
talked about
do
him
know-
as a technical
We-
director.
Do you
Yeah,
know
so
that
that's why I brought it
So
up.
do you think it would be...
I think
I think
he
it
would
would
be
be
great for that.
fantastic.
He
As a
would be
technical
perfect.
director.
I think it would be
Perfect.
fantastic.
He's
I think
almost playing that role for Kaiser. Kaiser, if you read his first interviews when he came back that we did with him in kickoff, and what we've seen elsewhere, and what Kaiser has said often, it's more than just the first team. It's sorting out our youth. It's getting a system going. And I know Baxter is pretty happy there, but it's obviously tempting. And maybe that's also the money Safa's juggling. Can we afford a Baxter and a Queiroz? That starts getting a bit difficult. On the Shakes thing, you know, it's a bit like in our own profession. Just because you're a good writer, you shouldn't have to become the editor to get a better salary. As a writer, you should be rewarded well for writing well. If you're the under-20 coach, you should be earning pretty much what the national coach earns, because that is a damn important phase. If we just mess around with that and give it to bro so-and-so, shame he's unemployed but he's a good guy, let him do it, this guy got relegated, he's unemployed, let him have the under-17s, nonsense, because you break it. That's where we have to start building, and people have to work together in a system.
But
and I wouldn't want to take Shakes away, because time and again he's worked so well with that level of
and exactly, if Shakes goes up to the Bafana job, he's going to lose all the focus he's got on that as well. And it's more than just Shakes being good with youth. If he becomes national coach, it's not a case of, okay, he's great with youth, so there'll be this natural progression. It's way more than that. I mean,
no, it's a different.
Safa have a lot more to do than just about a national coach to make that happen.
A national coach has to be a bit of a politician to handle broader things, managing people coming from different football philosophies, different places, getting that to gel, dealing with all sorts of conflicts.
After Shakes left under 23s, that's when things changed as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I also think that players are so much harder to manage these days. I mean, let's be honest, they earn a triple the amount. And the media has sort of pushed them up into a sphere where they think they're demigods, you know, so it's a very difficult person to manage in the top. So when you're taking the under 20 and under 23, they're still potentially becoming that, whereas the guys who are in Bafana are already there.
My feeling about Shakes is when he was Bafana coach, he wasn't terrible in terms of results, but he didn't handle the stuff around the job very well. There were quite a few crises, whereas he's hardly ever put a foot wrong with the younger bracket, and he's been a mentor to them. People like Benny McCarthy are often critical of coaches. They won't say bad things about Shakes because they saw how he worked with them. I'd be very disappointed to see him move out of that sphere. And I'd like to see a Sarami Letswaka continue within that. I think the work, there's enough work for both of those kind of people, even strengthen it more. We have good development coaches here and there. Sundowns these days employ most of them, but I would prefer, but yeah, I'd agree with those. I'd prefer to be Carlos. Keshi for me is a non-starter in my opinion, despite what he's achieved with Nigeria. I think he's a hero to Nigerians. But him coming to coach us would be a bit like us sending Lucas to Nigeria. He's our hero. What's he do Nigerians?
Also Keshi to me is a little bit too arrogant. He's
a bit of a hard nut.
I think he'll get. I think you get into a lot of trouble.
It won't work.
So I've got a question with like these Frank Reich cards and the guys who are on the list. What do they bring to the party? All that's going to happen is they'll come here. Our system is broken, so the players aren't going to get any better playing for a Frank Rijkaard.
Is Rijkaard someone that can fix this whole system?
No, but it's a system. So we're talking going back to a system that needs to be fixed. Again, what I'm saying about Baxter's theory and what he wants to do. So Rijkaard will come in. After a couple of years, he didn't qualify for a tournament. We'll get upset. He's got to go. We've got to pay him out.
And then another
all of
guy.
those things.
The same with Cannavaro, Carlos.
But the reality is, whoever coaches the national team, our chances of qualifying for Russia are this much.
Yeah, very small.
They are very, very small.
One kickoff reader mailed me when Gordon was getting the boot, and he was kind of feeling sorry for Gordon, saying, "Look, whatever you say, why do we always blame the coach?" He said, "It's like I have to drive a car for work, but it's a skoro. My boss gets cross with me one day and he says, 'I'm getting rid of you. You're always slow,' and he employs Lewis Hamilton." He says Lewis Hamilton will still be slow because it's not who's driving the car, it's the car. It's a bit like that with the Bafana coach thing. You know, we can get any number of guys. I think we you know, if the whole system doesn't work in sync with that coach, it's not going to work. If we don't have a conveyor belt of talent coming through, it's not going to work. If we have players who think they're superstars because they've appeared on the cover of Kickoff twice and they're big on super sport on weekends in this country and nothing else, it's not going to work. You can have Pep here.
So now, if you fail to qualify for Russia, are you going to put the blame on the coach?
Well, because we seem to do that, don't we?
It's like what Mark said, our system is broken. Our under-17s are not doing well. It's only now that we're paying attention to under-17s and under-20s.
I really think Daniel Don, specifically him and others around him, he's come back and he really wants to fix the system. It can't be done overnight. We've got Robin Peterson also trying to build this developmental ethos and raising money to help fund development. There's most serious effort I've seen this century. Because we started breaking it already in the last century. No sooner had we won the AFCON and qualified for the World Cup did we start breaking it down. That's the tragedy of our football. But it's going to take a while. I think, yes, we have to get certain key positions right quickly, and a national coach is one of them. But I'd love to see it with a guy who's a technical director who's completely qualified for the job. But then SAFA needs to begin the business of selling those people to the nation and to the media, because if you've got half the media against the coach, as we saw with Gordon, half were for, half were against, it creates a friction, and we've seen it with many other coaches as well. And if we don't get our message right, if SAFA don't get the message right about these are our structures, this is what we're going to try and achieve, we've got a recipe for disaster, because people are going to start questioning it because they haven't been informed of the big picture.
Okay, listen, we're digressing. If we have to talk SAFA, we're going to have to do this as one in parts. Let's wrap it up. Who do you think is going to be the coach come Saturday afternoon? Murph?
I have no idea, to be honest. I really have no idea. I don't know who's going to be the coach. I mean, I couldn't even pinpoint it in a weighting. Like, I couldn't say, 60% Queiroz.
Maggie?
I think because Murph's a journalist, he's not ashamed to admit that. But to be honest, none of us are completely sure. A lot of the time I'm thinking it's Queiroz, but then I keep questioning myself. Am I just being led down the path? And SAFA have said he won't be there. So then we think, oh, it's Rijkaard or Queiroz or someone who's far away. Doesn't necessarily mean it. Maybe it's Bryce Shakes and he's on holiday. Maybe Shakes is at Disneyland. I don't know. So I think well done to Danny and them, and we've tried our guys on the execs and that. People are being very disciplined, so well done, SAFA guys. No one's broken ranks.
For me, it's not a question of who's going to become a coach. It's a question of who does SAFA want as a coach, and they want Carlos Queiroz. So everything boils down to
whether they've got the bucks.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, according to media reports, Iran is offering him 24 million rand a year. So that's what the reports are saying. Is SAFA prepared to match that?
I think Gavin Hunt.
I knew you were going to say that. The thing with Hunty is he's such a straight talker. No one in South Africa will want to talk to him after a week, because he'll upset everyone, because he'll tell them what's wrong quickly.
He'll get results on the pitch.
You will lose 3-0, you will win 3-0 and still says what a rubbish game.
You don't have to worry about him winning 3-0 though. Okay, anyways, that's it for us. Keep our eye on kickoff.com tomorrow. We'll be first with the Bafana coach.